Hello, and welcome to the Duffle Bag. Today I'd like to discuss a little known and overlooked source of reference material, not only for military history, but also for identification and reference of military insignia and uniforms, etc. And that is the National Geographic magazine. Now, I have before me a bound edition, a library bound edition of an October 1917 National Geographic. Now, the main subject of this particular edition is our flag number. Now, we're going to discuss the meat of this edition in a later presentation, but basically it dealt with the history of the American flag, the history of the state flags, and it went into the flags of foreign nations involved in the Great War. Now, what most collectors don't realize is if you go to the back of this particular edition is an article called The Insignia of the Uniformed Forces of the United States. Now, let's see what that shows. Remember that October 1917 is the date when the first American troops landed in France. So, with the increase in the forces, the people at the National Geographic thought it would be nice that their subscribers would be interested in identifying and how to read a soldier and sailor's uniform of these burgeoning forces. So first we have 2 pages devoted to the United States Army. It starts out with the Army version of the Medal of Honor, the types of hats, the officer's insignia, the rank structure, and the style of the different rank insignia. On the dress uniforms, they had these quadrifoils, which denoted rank, and also in the open section there, they would have the different branches that represented the officers. Here we see the collar discs that existed at that particular time in 1917, and of course, these were expanded as the war progressed. You have the enlistedman's rank structure, much different than what we have today, and even in World War II. And almost in the vein of the Navy, you could tell a person's specialty by these discs that were worn on the sleeves of the uniforms. You have a baker, and a wheelwright, and a saddler, and a horseshoer. Here you have the early aviation wings. Remember that the Air Service was just in its infancy when this war broke out. Then we proceed to the naval forces. Again, the different, remember that the uniforms had high collars on them, and this is how the ranks were represented on those high collar uniforms. They didn't have a what you would call an ensign at this time. This is a midshipman. Now, this is the the cap insignia of a naval officer. And if you look close, you'll see that the eagle is facing its left. Well, in the rules of heraldry, anything that's to the left is considered sinister. You might translate that into devilish or disrespectful, definitely a negative connotation. In 1926, this insignia was changed and the eagle then faced to the right. On this page, you have the lower ranks of the naval forces and the early usage of what we called strikers or specialty marks and so on, shooting badges, and early aviation insignia. Now we come over to the Coast Guard. Oh, excuse me. Coast Guard's here, Marines are here. Now you can see the Marines, as usual, didn't have a lot of insignia. You were a Marine, you weren't necessarily a gunner or aviation or whatever. Marines have always been just a Marine. That said enough. Here you have the Coast Guard insignia, very reminiscent of the naval forces, only their insignia, the eagle is facing correctly to the right. And they still have down here a sailmaker's striker. Here we have the Public Health Service. Now the Public Health Service, they had an option. They could wear a naval uniform or they could wear an Army uniform. And here you have indications. This is the Army style ranks, then the naval style, and they had enlisted personnel also. And as I say, this is the early insignia that the United States went to war with, and it's in this book. And it's a great piece of reference material. They're readily available on sites like eBay. They're not expensive at all, the books. And although the ones with insignias do tend to command a higher price. Very often you find bound editions like this. This particular library bound each month. However, usually they were 6 months of a year bound together. So two volumes for each year. And we're going to discuss this particular edition at a later date, and also World War II and Vietnam. We're going to talk about those editions also. If you have any questions or any comments, we appreciate you letting us know. And we appreciate your likes and subscriptions. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.